Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Marissa Kozlov. It's great to have you with us for today's eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and MarTech. Today's conversation focuses on how retailers are transforming their Frankenstacks into modern marketing systems that speed up insights and drive action. I have three great guests with me today, so let's meet them. First, we have Karl Rosen, Industry Principal, Marketing and Advertising at Snowflake, who is based in New Jersey today. Hi, Karl.
Hi, Marissa. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. We also have Mark Rose, Senior Director of Market Strategy at TransUnion, who's in Chicago today. Hi,
Hi,
Mark.
Marissa. Greetings from a very snowy Chicago
I was
today.
going to say, I heard that it is snowing there. Hope everything is all right. But I feel like in the opposite climate out in Santa Monica, we also have Sam Shapiro-Kline, Director of Product Marketing at TransUnion. Hi, Sam.
Thanks for having us, Marissa.
This is going to be great today. I'm so happy you're all here. And we'd also love to hear from all of you in our audience. Where are you joining us from? Just use that chat window on the right side of your screen to share that with us and also to submit any questions that you may have for our guests today. We will do our best to get to as many of those as we can during the live Q&A in the second part of the show. So please keep those coming. We'd love to hear from you. Sam, Mark, and Karl have a great discussion planned. So over to you, Sam. Let's get started.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks so much again for having TransUnion and Snowflake on today's Tech Talk. Many folks may know TransUnion as a credit bureau, but TransUnion has evolved through innovation and acquisition to really be a global information and insights company. We have businesses now in fraud, communications, and in marketing technology, which Mark and I represent. I'm excited to have this group on to talk about personalization and so-called Frankenstacks. Broken, disconnected marketing technology stacks have become really top of mind for a lot of our common customers, especially in the context of personalization, which is a crucial operation and use case for a lot of D2C marketers. Thinking about providing more personalized messages and relevant content to consumers is crucial when they have come to expect that. In a time where more data than ever is really being generated, the possibility of personalization keeps growing. But getting it right and really executing is very challenging, especially while managing consent and consumer privacy. So through this conversation, we want to help the audience understand how they can accelerate their own approaches to personalization through better identity and better technology as well. So with that, for the first question, I'd like to ask Mark, personalization has been a top focus for marketers, especially D2C marketers, for some time. What are brands trying to achieve by improving personalization?
So the pursuit of right message, right person, right time really remains true for most, if not all, marketers. Understanding the customer helps the marketer predict what to sell them next and which creative can best communicate that. There's also a desire to achieve customer reach goals. Digital marketing has proven to be very effective for targeting, but the optimization and ROI tends to drive smaller audiences and reach. Personalization allows for the generation of large audiences, but tailoring the messaging within the broader campaign to drive effectiveness. Typically, we'll see a marketer collect data that's customary with a transaction, name, address, email, phone, enriching that profile with attributes such as gender, demographics, occupation, buying power. There are many, many others. Really enables a more strategic segmentation to drive this personalization.
Hey, Karl, what's your perspective on what brands are trying to achieve?
I think we're at that stage where customers really expect a personalized experience, and we're exposed to thousands of marketing messages a day. It's really hard to cut through that clutter because we're experts at filtering out that noise, right? You see a message, it resonates or it doesn't, you move on. So I think goal one is really how do you cut through that clutter to make your brand really resonate with the consumers and customers that you're trying to drive sales with, right? So short term driving sales, longer term, it really leads into how do you build a more direct relationship with those customers. And personalization can help build that strong long-term relationship. So they're always coming back for more.
Yeah, cutting through the clutter and using data to help do that, I think has been a focus for a long time, but it feels more crucial than ever. especially with I would say the growth of ad-supported streaming TV, feels like advertising is present really in all the media we consume. And so having the ability to use that time effectively is really crucial. But when we think about sort of seizing that opportunity, and I'll have Karl, if you start on this one, what is stopping marketers from actually delivering personalized experiences to customers? And does that differ when it comes to prospects?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with having a really strong data foundation, right? So having a customer 360 or a source of truth for all your customers where you're pulling in all your behavioral or exposures across different channels from e-commerce, retail to resolve into one core identity spine, right? So you really have a source of truth, a really strong understanding of what your consumers like to interact with or like to buy. But also downstream, how do you start to append that with third-party data and really understand more about what their behaviors are, what they like outside of buying your specific products or solutions? And that's where you get into prospects, right? It's usually a little more fragmented. So how do you start to bring in all the data for your prospects that you're collecting, maybe across website or app, and still resolve it to an identity so that hopefully you can convert them to a purchaser or a customer at some point and have that really strong foundation of knowledge about how to engage them the right way going forward.
Yeah. And so, Mark, from a TransUnion perspective, what do you see stopping marketers?
Well, I think there's a historical pattern with businesses, and as Marissa referred to it, the Frankenstack, that's really rooted in the siloed, legacy nature of companies. Departments will choose vendors that suit their specific needs. The implication of that is that not only from a cost perspective, but also as data is collected or insights are created in one department, but can't be leveraged or applied in another department. So, for example, a loyalty team using a segmentation may get insights from or into their customers, but the media team can't take action on those insights and use them for campaign targeting. And that's where we see companies bring in third-party data, in this case, identity data, to their tools. From a TransUnion perspective, we often see marketers leverage third-party data as a way to overcome the challenge of silos. While bringing this third-party identity data is helpful for a particular department or function, it really perpetuates this disconnected data across the company and an inability to have a unified view of the customer for insights, prospecting, and acquisition as well.
I think that sort of situation of are you using first party or using third party is very meaningful because to a certain degree, third party does give you a different perspective on your customers. That's why it is really valuable. But at a certain level as well, you're kind of treating them like a prospect if that's your primary method. So if you're not able to use first party insights that are informed by third party data and demographics like TransUnion provides, then you're not quite accessing the value of your first party data. So I think that issue of accessing the value of first party data is part of what we're thinking about with the Frankenstack. But what does that really mean, and why is it a problem to have a Frankenstack? Karl, if you want to start.
Yeah, I think Frankenstacks happen when marketers have too many disconnected point solutions that really don't provide the ROI that they expect, right? And it happens a couple of ways. Sometimes it's brands grow just naturally, and they need additional marketing tech or marketing tools to help them continue to grow. Technology changes every day, every single day, as we've seen. And then acquisitions. Sometimes you bring in a new brand that has an entirely different MarTech stack, and you have a lot of duplication between your stacks. So the problems are that they're generally pretty expensive, right? Especially when you have that duplication, and they're slow because you have processes that are required to move data around your entire MarTech stack and ecosystem that takes a lot of time for engineering teams, right? And they have to move all this first-party data into different CDPs, CEPs, right? Engagement platforms or activation platforms. Teams get frustrated because you can't activate an insight or activate a campaign at the speed of the consumer, as we'll call it.
Yeah. And Mark, so what do you see as the meaning of a Frankenstack and why that's a problem?
Well, I think it gets back, as I said earlier, really the historical siloed nature of companies. How does that manifest itself? A media team may collect website and app browse data in a DMP for campaign targeting. The loyalty team may do customer lifetime value analysis and segmentation within their CRM application. And then you may have a call center using basic customer information to validate the identity of a customer, but really lack visibility on what's the value of that customer. The call center would love to have a better view on the customer. I said the call center would, I'm sorry, misspoke, would love to have a better view on the customer so they can personalize their approach, right? But they're either going to get two different views, maybe only one view, or maybe no view at all. So then what you have there is this lack of unified identity across the business for a particular customer. The inability for one department to access insights that another department may have, as well as the inefficiency of doing profile enrichment on a one-off basis. So for purposes of this discussion around personalization, the real implication is a decreased ability to personalize messaging to customers, to prospects, and drive that effectiveness when maybe your competitors are already doing so. So it can be a real disadvantage.
Yeah, if your competitors are already ahead of you and delivering more personalized experiences, you're going to struggle. But at the same time, it's hard to get past that because teams do build dependence on individual tools. We use point solutions for a reason because they solve point problems. But those problems built up over long periods of time are not usually quick and easy to fix as well. So there has to be some kind of path and roadmap towards creating a better marketing stack, a modern marketing stack that incorporates the right technology at the right time. So it really can feel like a foreboding topic to get into, and I hope we can start to get into making it a little more approachable. With that, Karl, how do you fix marketing technology when you have a Frankenstack? Where do you start?
Yeah, I think that's the key is you just start, right? And it's important to keep a general tab on total cost of the MarTech stack, but not only the tech, but the people and processes that go along with it. Data flow diagrams are not always the most fun, but they're really important to understand where data flows across your ecosystem and how you can simplify or streamline some of those tasks. So marketers should start after that by documenting, all the core use cases that they require for their campaign or consumer engagement, and then work with tech teams to understand what's the best way to make it fit within either the current stack or a future stack, right, as they continue to evolve. And then as you have that joint roadmap built out, it's what's the cost benefit of this MarTech stack and how do we continue to streamline? It's not a one step and done. It has to be a continual process that goes on. And I'm really a big believer that it starts with a centralized data foundation, right? So managing things like data governance, consent management within a centralized location so that all the downstream activation is reliant on that really strong foundation and centralized management of your data is a really key piece of this, right? And then as you think about building out a MarTech stack, it's this concept of composability, which is bringing the tools to your data within the MarTech stack. So you don't have to move data around the entire ecosystem. And composability can really mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So I want to kind of touch on that. It's enabling your engineering teams to free up a lot of resources so you have more working dollars, right, and faster activation. And that's really key when you get into these marketing campaigns that sit on top of really fast personalization capabilities. If you can't reach the speed of the consumer, as we touched on earlier, you're really missing out.
Mark, how do you see the approach of D2C marketers fixing their marketing technology stacks?
Well, there's really no panacea, but there's definitely a crawl, walk, run approach that starts with resolving identity across your different systems. To make it possible to even connect these systems, you have to have normalized and resolved data with the right identifiers to be useful. So often the best approach to do this is to connect your applications to a data cloud and do the identity resolution there. It's a refreshing change in the model, just as Karl mentioned, from the legacy, bring your data to your tools or bring data to your tools to bring tools to your data. When your data is in the cloud, you can work with native applications integrated with that data cloud environment that don't involve moving your data to a location outside your control. This is really effective for enhancing privacy, enhanced frameworks, and just overall security of your customer data. So from a crawl perspective, with your data in a cloud environment, you can start with, say, a data health assessment where you can identify duplicate records and gaps in your customer profiles that may limit your ability to do basic segmentation. You can go to a walk, right? Which is with that understanding of your data health, you can fill those gaps, further enrich your profiles with attributes that will enable stronger segmentation. And that's sort of similar to what I mentioned earlier in the call, gender, demographics, buying power, and such. And then from a run perspective, with your data normalized, you can connect your data across your apps, such as going from insights to activation without having to do an entirely new integration. And you can do this all within a privacy enhanced framework in the cloud.
Yeah, I think that sort of that run and that goal of getting to a place where you have resolved data in a cloud, composable applications, that's a big vision, and it really is part of what we're running towards as a collaboration between TransUnion and Snowflake. And there's such an exciting opportunity for marketers to be able to do everything that they do so much more quickly and with a lot more of their data at their fingertips and controlled in the right way if they're really achieving that. But I appreciate that both of you came with slightly different perspectives on first steps, getting data to cloud, mapping out use cases, because it does feel like there are elements that are good decisions for marketers to make sort of regardless on the first step of understanding what their use cases are, understanding how they can make their data, move their data to a location that is more accessible and more flexible for use. So we talked a little bit about that sort of bigger vision of where the market is going, but what really are the outcomes of connecting and fixing your marketing stack when it comes to personalization? Mark?
Yeah, sure, I'll start. So I think it's driving reach on top of the effectiveness that you expect from a digital campaign. Building a large audience that delivers on your reach goals while also getting the right message to the right customer and thus driving your KPIs, whether that's branding oriented or whether it's performance oriented.
I touched on the speed to market and also the cost, right? The TCO of your MarTech stack. I think the bigger opportunity is democratization of data, right? It is allowing people across your organization to have access to the same insights in a privacy compliant way that allows them to make decisions faster. And that's really what, at the end of the day, marketers want, is to be able to have the same menu that they're working off to be able to activate across channels in a more real-time basis.
Yeah, and activating on that real-time basis and moving across channels really is the future of sort of cross-channel marketing, right? I think one aspect which actually, Karl, you brought up before was around data engineering teams and data teams, because I wouldn't want to lose in the focus on real business outcomes is that improving the velocity and improving the ability of your data engineering team to focus on higher value tasks is incredibly valuable. Like if you're a marketing team and you're a little bit frustrated, but that you're not achieving all the use cases on the timeline that you want, you might want to look at whether your existing practices are bogging down your data engineering team. There are a lot of sort of simple things that we like to work with customers on about, hey, can we do this together in Snowflake and just make it so that somebody doesn't have to monitor whether this file went through properly or was formatted properly, or like, did the ETL job run the right way every month? And so working across sort of the data engineering and marketing team to figure out how to do that together, how to use the right technology to improve their speed and velocity is also very valuable. So with that, we have been embarking on this path together. From your perspective, starting with Mark, why are cloud native applications an advantage over using identity and cloud sort of separately?
Well, I'll go back to what Carl said earlier around composable MarTech, where you bring tools to your data. By settling on a single identity standard for your company and integrating it with your data in a cloud platform, really any tool you bring to your data will execute its use cases in a way that's consistent with how you view, value, and segment your customers. So using a cloud native identity applications enables you to quickly execute use cases such as data enrichment and then scale that application across your entire data set. Cloud native also enables a privacy first approach since marketers retain control of their customer data and are not sending that data outside their organization. And last, there's an opportunity to use identity in an automated way on demand. And this is really where we get to fast personalization by running smaller jobs, segmenting customers with identity, and then pushing them into systems where marketing teams can take actions like customer engagement functionality.
Carl, why do you see cloud native applications as being an advantage?
Yeah, I think it allows for the convergence of ad tech and martech around the marketer's data, right? And we talked a bit about data governance, managing consent within a cloud native application or a cloud platform. It really allows for the downstream activation across paid and owned channels to be a much more seamless process. So brands can access the marketplace to build their suite of composable solutions that are purpose-built for marketers' needs, right? So there's over how many thousands of partners in the marketplace now to go in, search, find the right opportunity, the right capability that really fits exactly what you want. And then next phase of this, I think we can all agree, is AI ML-based solutions in marketing. Do you really want to start sending your customer data outside into a black box, or do you want to manage it all within your environment so that your AI models are all trained in a governed, secure way? I think that's a key piece for the future of marketing here.
That aspect of AI governance is really interesting. I think one other aspect we've encountered is really pure governing and not transferring data. I think our path together really started with solving for a problem of often marketers do not want to send PII out of their walls, and maybe they shouldn't, right? Maybe that's the better path to avoid using partners in that way and instead interacting with them through cloud native applications. So with that, Marissa, have we gotten any questions from the audience that we should address?
We do. Well, first, let me thank the three of you for such a great conversation. I've really enjoyed your take on so many things regarding personalization and, of course, Frankenstacks especially. I mean, Carl, I loved your advice that you gave on how to fix Frankenstacks. Just start, just do it. Don't get bogged down with anything. Just jump right in. So thank you all for sharing so many great insights on what's stopping marketers from offering personalized experiences to customers, what they're trying to achieve, and ultimately how they can have the data foundation to build on that unified view of the customer that you spoke to. So thanks again. Let's get right to the audience Q&A, as you mentioned. The first one I'll pass over to you, Carl. What should marketers do about personalization if they don't have much first-party data?
That's a good question, and something that I ran across in the CPG world a lot, where they don't collect a lot or don't have a lot of first-party data. I think the first step is to really make what data you have accurate and actionable, right? And it starts with resolving any fragmented data that you do collect onto an identity spine, so you can generate a more complete view of your customer or consumer. And then from there, it's how do you append or apply third-party data to generate more insights to build out a really strong seed of data that you can activate across your paid and owned channels as much as possible.
Well, that is helpful to understand. I imagine some people who haven't collected all of this data might be a bit worried right now, but thank you for offering some solutions for those that may not have as much as others. Next question, Mark, I will ask this one to you. I think Sam and Carl, you may also have a take on this. When activating CDP audiences, we've seen very low delivery against the audience. What are common reasons and solutions for small audience sizes?
I would probably go to the fact that you would have you don't have a single identity standard you're using, and so because of the low match rates you'd have, it's very hard to take the data you have and create that audience and have that really deliver on the reach with a campaign.
Yeah, I think there's a couple elements. One is, so if you're collecting first-party data, and let's say you just are bringing in a lot of emails, which are very useful for activating in a lot of destinations. One issue is the quality of those themselves. They might not be accurate, they might not be up to date, they might not often be seen on other websites. And then the second issue is, well, that's one email, right? That's not all the different breadth of identifiers that are used for digital or CTV targeting. And so as you think about improving that match rate, identity is really a key aspect of first enriching with additional identifiers of, what you're using, confirming if that's accurate or not, but then expanding that into all of the different identifiers. We think of this like a hybrid multi-ID type strategy to maximize your reach in your desired channels. And especially make it possible to connect with some of them where they might not even have the data type that you have to start with.
Carl, I see you're nodding your head. Any thoughts or in agreement with the others?
I think Sam covered it, right? You're going to see different identifiers by different channels. So it's really about having a strong identity spine so you can connect across all those channels.
All right, that's a great point. Thank you all for weighing in on that one. Mark, our audience often loves examples. So can you give a client example where they used identity resolution for personalization or segmentation?
Yeah, so maybe continue the theme of CPG that Carl mentioned a couple minutes ago. We have a CPG client that leverages our consumer graph, our identity graph. They're able to resolve media exposure to that graph, purchase data to that graph, and with that, be able to have insights available across the entire enterprise. So it also touches on the theme of democratizing data that Carl mentioned earlier as well. But as far as from an outcome perspective, they're able to take that data, create very actionable segments, and really drive up their media ROI through personalization while also eliminating waste as well. So we have seen that be very effective for them.
Thank you. Our next viewer asks about a budget question, really, because replacing tech can be disruptive and costly. How can businesses make transitions and improvements smoother? Carl, what is your take on that one?
Yeah, no, marketers definitely expect a seamless transition when you're either swapping or adjusting the tech stack. I think the important parts here is start with POC, right? Don't go too big, too fast, and manage the kind of people and process behind that change really well so that there isn't a drop off in service as you're swapping out different solutions or different point solutions in the tech stack.
Okay, good recommendations. Okay, our next question, Sam, this one is for you. Data deprecation and addressability are causing problems for reaching customers. How do cloud and identity affect addressable marketing? I think you touched on this a little bit at the end, but any additional context would be great.
Yeah, I think that this is also related to the issue of you have a CDP, you're activating out of that CDP. So it really starts with, in the past, addressability has been very driven by identifiers like cookies and maids, which are not so persistent and now do require customer opt-in to access and to collect. And so the shift that you can make, right, is in using other identifiers, whether it's emails or IP addresses, to connect with your addressable marketing partners, right, your media platforms and destinations. So where cloud and identity really play. So identity, in one sense, can take those and then expand it, right? Give you the range of identifiers, the volume of identifiers that improves reach. But cloud really starts to have an interplay when it comes to the fact that the data that you do want to use is becoming more sensitive. And so you can more comfortably use those identifiers with your identity partners, and then also be able to move that to your destinations in a more simple, more streamlined way by using cloud and identity together.
Okay, well, that's helpful to understand how those play a role together. Thank you. We are going to take one more question today. What metrics should we evaluate to understand if we have a MarTech problem and whether we are solving it? This is a great one. Mark, I'd love your take.
Well, is your company using multiple identity vendors across its departments? That'll drive up your expenses, could take longer to put a campaign into the market if it's pulling insights across multiple departments. Your path to solving could start by identifying whether your company is using a data cloud. Then you'll have access to the cloud native applications that are part of that cloud to address these issues around cost, effectiveness, and speed to market.
Well, thank you so much. Sam, Mark, Karl, thank you again. This was really great conversation today. And we certainly appreciate you answering so many of the great questions that came in from our audience. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Before we wrap up, let me take a moment to tell you about eMarketer's media channels. You can register for live analyst and Tech Talk webinars on our events page at emarketer.com/events. Don't forget to tune in to Behind the Numbers, eMarketer's daily podcast. And finally, please subscribe to our newsletters. Thank you all for joining us. And thanks again to Sam, Mark, Karl, the team at TransUnion, and our eMarketer studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all on the next Tech Talk.